I challenged myself to make the same game with 3 time limits, 10 minutes, 1 hour, and 10 hours, to see how the game improves with more time. The graphics alone will make a huge difference between 10 minutes and 10 hours. I'll need to recreate the game Raft each time. So you don't need to know the real game, considering what I'm actually going to make, but basically just know that it's a game where you have to control a raft on the water, survive shark attacks, and build things. I could have picked simple games like Snake, but I chose Raft. Okay, the 10 minutes are about to start. I just need to press here. Let's go. I'll try to make something decent. Ideally, the game will be playable. First, I created the ocean. We're not going to overthink it. We're just going to create a flat 2D surface, make it huge so it looks like an endless ocean, and we're going to make it blue because, well, it's water. Now we need to make a raft. And again, we don't have time to use a 3D modeler yet. We'll just create a cube in the game engine, flatten it, and give it a brown color to make it look like wood. And already, well, that took us a little bit of time. We're adding the player, giving him a camera, and starting to code movement and camera following. Now the player moves and the camera follows, but it already took me 5 minutes to set this up. Alright, let's not waste any time. Now something I'm missing to make it look finished is a sky. For that we need to create what's called a skybox. To explain how it works, a skybox is kind of like those origami paper cubes. Basically, we have to design a sky on a flat layout like this, but in the end we're going to fold it all up to create a cube that will place around the player and it will never move. This is the technique games use to make you feel like you're in an infinite world. Yeah, here's what I made. I opened Paint and designed my best skybox. I didn't have time to do better. And yes, Paint, the software on Windows. We apply it to our sky. There's a little style. You can see the effort to do well. Here, you can really tell we're in a cube. I'd like us to be able to move around with our raft. So, to make a bigger raft, I duplicated the raft several times side by side. In Raft, you can put several. Anyway. And I added this little script, Move Raft script, which is just as minimalist as that, and it makes the rafts move automatically in the same direction. And the timer went off. Let me show you my recreation of Raft in 10 minutes. We have rafts that move on their own. There you go, you can't really tell. You can jump into the water, but then you end up drowning in the sky. Catastrophic. It's no surprise that recreating such a complex game in so little time is impossible, but can I do it in an hour this time? Here we go again, I'm starting the timer. Well, in this version we'll actually have time to model things, and each thing we model will be an extra feature in the game. For example, we'll start by making a shark. It's supposed to be the player's enemy in the game. I'm getting a reference from the internet. I'm importing it into Blender, which is a 3D modeling software, and then I try to use it as inspiration to roughly recreate the shapes of the shark. The modeling style I used here is called low poly style. Basically, it's a style that uses a mesh that's not very detailed. Instead of having a shark with a smooth and highly detailed rough body, we just have very simple faces. It gives it a bit of a cartoon look. We do the same with colors. No detailed textures, just simple ones. You might recognize this style from mobile games, since it allows quick and nice rendering. For us, it's perfect for finishing in an hour. We spent a lot of time on the shark, so we're importing it into the game engine now. Meanwhile, I modeled some fish and toilets, which will make sense later. Next, we'll recreate an ocean using our previous technique. This time, I wanted to add a texture to the ocean for more detail, so I opened Paint again. My drawing skills haven't improved, but I still tried to make a seamless texture. That means if the game engine displays it multiple times side by side, it looks like it's continuous. That's really important, for example, if you're making a grass texture for the ground. I didn't manage to do it. Actually, making something seamless takes too much time. Another option I like, which I plan to use once as a backup, is asking an AI to create a texture. It saves a lot of time. Here's the prompt I gave ChatGPT, and it made this matching texture. Now let's open our software and work on the raft. We're going to create a cylinder shape with very few sides since we're doing low poly, and we'll stretch it out so it looks like a log. Rondin is a funny word. Don't you think there are words like that in French? Yeah, we don't have time. That gives us a raft. We can add it to our game scene. I'm going to put several of them here too. So how much time is left? Well, as you can see, my scene is a bit of a mess for now. We need to start coding quickly. The last graphic element we have time to make in this version is a small interface. That's what we call a HUD. For example, adding a health bar, a hunger bar, an inventory button. But let's get started. The health bar doesn't have a texture. We'll place a gray rectangle as the background, a red one on top, and do the same for the hunger bar with a different color. That was faster than expected. Now let's move on to scripting. We're starting to recreate the player with a moving camera, but it needs more tweaking. I didn't get it right at first. For example, when I added the character's 3D model, you could see inside the body, which looks strange. This is one of those silly coding problems that could take 30 minutes to fix, but I don't have that time now. So I'll just disable the body at game start to hide the issue. I recommend this approach. Now let's make the sharks move. I'm going to move them away from the player, and I'll create a move to player script that will make sure they're always drawn toward the player. The code looks like this. It's not some advanced artificial intelligence. And I also added an attack system so that when it collides with the player, it takes away some health. There you go. And well, when you die, we also display a death screen. Well, a death screen, just some text. In Raft, a main feature is collecting drifting objects in the water. That's why I modeled toilets, a boat, and fish. Usually we use a hook to gather them. But for now, let's forget about the grappling hook. We'll just make it so the player has to go collect them themselves in the water. Time went by too fast. Well, if we launch the game, honestly, it's actually nicer looking than the previous version. So, you might think it's cool. There's an inventory bar and you can actually collect items. But actually no, It's just a static image with a fish already inside. I didn't have time to make a dynamic inventory bar. Now, when I get close to an object, it just disappears. It still isn't great. But imagine what we could do with 10 times more time. This time, we're definitely going to make a complete game. This concept is interesting because it shows Parkinson's law. Tasks expand to fill the time you allow. For example, if you give yourself 30 minutes to study, you'll finish in 30 minutes. But if you don't give yourself a time limit and you say, for example, it's fine, I have the whole day, you'll really end up taking the whole day to do it. And there, without a doubt, what I'm going to do in 10 hours if I hadn't set this goal, I would have done it over several days. Let's get started again. In this version, I'm going to try to create a realistic style. And to get the most realistic result possible, I'm going to allow myself to use free assets from the internet. We're creating a new project again, but this time we're choosing to make a high-definition 3D project. This mode enables more effects but uses more resources. We're also adding plugins to the game engine for even more effects. The first thing we can do, and you're going to love this, is if we add our ocean as usual, we can directly select surface, then river, and we'll get an ultra-realistic water surface already modeled and animated with all the right lighting effects. It's really cool, you just have to extend this surface infinitely like we did before, and there you go, we're really lost in the middle of an ocean. Now we're going to change the sky to get an ultra-realistic look there too, but here as well we're going to do it differently. Instead of using a skybox like at the beginning, we're going to use an HDRI. It's a 360-degree photo that has captured the real light intensity of the real world. So not only is it much more realistic, but also the sky itself will become a light source in the game, so all the dazzling reflections on the water, the shadows, it's all going to look supernatural. I visited the Polyhaven website to find an HDRI. They have many sky options. We'll use this one. Adding it to our game makes my PC heat up, but it looks stunning. Next step, as you're getting used to by now, is the raft. We're still going to try to model something ourselves in Blender to get the shape we want. I'll speed up the sequence for you. It's funny because in this version I actually have time to watch tutorials and do things right. I struggled and tinkered a lot. Should have just downloaded a raft online. That wasted 50 minutes, almost as long as making the previous game. I won't repeat that mistake with the character. So, I went to the Unity Asset Store, which is literally a marketplace for assets for your games, and I got a realistic character. I also added a stool and a campfire in which I put an orange light to simulate fire. That'll give us some elements we can interact with later. And finally, before showing you how the scene turned out, I added a bunch of camera effects with Cinemachine. A shaking effect as if the raft was moving with the waves. A slight fisheye effect which turns the camera into something a bit like a GoPro if you see what I mean. And finally, there's an effect that makes the camera look wet as if our eyes were soaked with water splashes. I then added our first HUD again. For now it's very basic, but I still had time to add a stylized font which I found on the internet for the death text or the text that shows your health. And now the next step is the sharks. That's what's going to cause death in this game, so we need to find a really scary model. I found this one for example, which is a great white shark. Clearly it's different from the previous shark, and there we go, we add it to the game and there it is, it's all cute. Well, cute. We'll create a system where the shark can attack the player with an animation, but first we need to build a damage and death system. I tried to make some stuff myself on Paint for the health bar until I realized it looked really bad, but again, they haven't changed at all. And I found an idea to avoid wasting even more time, which is to use the damage system from some realistic games. In a lot of games, when you take damage, it's not shown with a health bar, but with blood splatters that appear on the interface. Blood splatters, paradoxically, are very easy to find on the internet, and basically we're just going to stack several of them to create what's called an overlay, and this overlay will be displayed over the screen when you take damage or when you die. Now we can move on to the scripting part to bring the sharks to life. Basically, they'll either attack the player if he's in the water, or attack the rafts. We can take the time to do something smarter, though it adds more code and logic, but now, notice the sharks moving in the water. Well, on the surface it's very realistic, but when you're directly in the water it's a bit less realistic for now, and they can attack the rafts which have a sort of invisible health bar, and so they can be destroyed. To develop the game mechanics, I built a system letting you place planks for walls, roofs, or to expand your raft. Fortnite is definitely sweating looking at this. Then, I spent a huge amount of time adding a very complex, very large model that's really scary. A fish! Now we have sharks and fish, and I made a script for them to spawn randomly in the ocean. There are a few bugs, and I'm fed up. Sometimes I feel like doing what some devs do instead of taking responsibility and saying, it's not a bug, it's a feature. So, there's something we haven't done at all in the previous versions, and that's going to make the game feel a bit more finished. It's adding a menu to the game. Now, we're not going to make some futuristic interface because time has gone by way too fast. Basically, I took a screenshot of the game so I could implement it in a new scene and use it as a background. And we're going to add some text with the name of the game. Please, Raft, don't sue me. Anyway, I don't think I'm really competing with you with this game, to be honest, so if we press any key, it will start the game and we'll spawn in the ocean. I'm annoyed because I wanted to add an underwater view for swimming since it really bugs out now. Plus, a shark is already attacking me. Oh well, let's go. Visually, it's much better than our previous versions, but honestly, it's not Game of the Year, it's more a prototype than a finished game. I'm not sure the challenge was a success, but it was definitely tough. I hope this inspired you or showed that games can be made quickly. And if you have other ideas for challenges like this, feel free to let me know in the comments. This was Awen, see you.